Welcome in, everybody. Little bit of a Monday morning edition. Torres Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Torres. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's having a great day. As you can see behind me, we are certainly not in the Torres studios in Los Angeles. I am here live, Circa Casino, Circa Sportsbook. College Hoops has actually officially begun. Want to shout out my guys, the Field of 68. They got their event going tonight. The doubleheader in Vegas, Florida, Arizona, BYU, Villanova. I will be there for it all. But today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk a lot of college hoops today, okay? So, again, I know that obviously a lot of you are college hoops fans, but a lot of you may be college football fans. You're focused on the LSU search, the Florida search, the Penn State search, college football national championship stuff. But today it is all college hoops as we preview the season. By the way, everybody get in the chat really quick. One, Luke's already dropped his final four picks. Just let me know, producer Matt was not able to travel with me. It's actually his birthday today. I think he's celebrating the post-Hugh Freeze era. But I just bring it up because let me know, can you hear me okay? Does it sound okay? Obviously, a little bit of a different setup here today as we are at Stadium Swim, Circa Casino, Circa Sportsbook. Okay, so before we get started, should mention, I do want to thank our friends, do want to thank our partners, do want to thank Circa Casino and Circa Sportsbook. Okay, so feels pretty obvious, but that is where we are today. For those of you who are coming out to Vegas here over the next few months, bottom line, that place right there, that is the best place anywhere. I would argue this, and I'm saying this sincerely. I'm not saying it because they are a great advertiser and partner of ours. I would argue Stadium Swim, Circa Casino, Circa Sportsbook is the best place anywhere, maybe in America, to watch your favorite game, college football, college basketball, whatever you want to watch. Stadium Swim is the spot. Huge TV right behind me, heated pools. This place is open 365 days a year. It's open on Thanksgiving for the NFL. It's open New Year's Day for college football. It's open on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, whatever is going on. Stadium Swim is open. This is the best place to watch sports anywhere, not just in Vegas, but anywhere in general. And really quickly, if you can't make it out to Vegas, as I've told you many times, make sure to check out the new Circa Sportsbook at Mint Kentucky Downs in Franklin, Kentucky. Again, I know a lot of you can't make it to Vegas. By the way, if you are making it to Vegas for the Players Era, we may have a couple cool events going on here. But if you cannot make it to Vegas for any reason, make sure to check out the new Circa Sportsbook at Mint Kentucky Downs, Franklin, Kentucky. All of the great same hospitality that you love from Circa Sportsbook, all of the same, ambiance, customer service, all of that. And so got to check out the new Circa Sportsbook, Mint Kentucky Downs in Franklin, Kentucky. If you have not checked it out yet, it is right on that Kentucky-Tennessee border, about 40 minutes or so from Nashville. Check it out. We will be doing live shows from the new Circa Sportsbook here in time. Still trying to figure out, is it best to do the start of college basketball season when you got all those big out-of-conference games? Is it best to come down in the lead-up to a big SEC game for Kentucky, maybe a same weekend that Louisville is at home, Tennessee is at home, something like that? So we will kind of try and figure it all out in real time. But again, make sure to check out the new Circa Sportsbook, Mint Kentucky Downs in Franklin, Kentucky. All right, with that said, it is a busy Monday. No more time to waste. Let's go ahead and get to the topic of the day. Topic of the day, by the way, I'm going to try and adjust myself. The lighting, I feel like I'm Two-Face in in Batman here. You can't really see this side of my face, but let me see. Give me 1/2 second here. Give me 1/2 second. I'm going to play around with the lighting a little bit. See if this helps or hurts. There we go. That's a little bit better. Now, you can't really see Stadium Swim behind me, but yeah, I don't know, man. There's something about the lighting in here. I'm trying to figure it out in real time. I thought I had it set up. So I'll tell you what, let's just go ahead and talk a little bit of college hoops. Give me 1 second. I'm actually going to get back to where I was because at least you could see Stadium Swim at that point. Hold on 1 second. I swear, producer Matt takes one day off and the whole place goes to hell. So anyway, with that said, no more time to waste. Let's get to the topic of the day. Topic of the day, like I said, college hoops has started. So the season itself is actually underway. But in the process of the season starting, the two big games, opening night, they are here in Las Vegas. I will be going to them. You know, we'll go ahead and do a post-game show live from the arena tomorrow evening, or tonight, excuse me, Arizona, Florida, BYU versus Villanova. But what I want to do now, I do want to get to my Final Four national championship picks. Okay, so it's that time of year. Everybody's making picks. Everybody's making selections. And I'm going to go ahead and give you my thoughts on the season ahead. Okay, so who are Torres' Final Four and national championship picks? Well, let's go ahead and start with the first team that I do have making a Final Four. It is the University of Connecticut. Okay, I know what everyone's going to say. Oh, Torres, you're such a homer. Why don't you stop picking UConn? Listen, I turned on UConn before anybody last year, and I think, you know, one thing that I have noticed in doing this job as long as I have is that I think sometimes fans know before everybody else. And I think last year, everybody kind of felt like, oh, there's going to be this magical turn for UConn, and at some point they're going to figure it out, and it just never happened. Now, part of it was the pieces didn't really fit. Part of it was there were injuries. You know, Alex Caravan got that concussion. Liam McNeely in and out of the lineup, missed like a month with an ankle injury, and it just felt like they never really got going. Here's the counter to that, though. In what could only be described as a colossally disappointing season for the University of Connecticut, never forget this. They beat Gonzaga. They beat Texas. They beat Baylor. They beat Creighton at Creighton. They swept Marquette. These are all tournament teams that they beat during the season. And then, oh, by the way, do not forget that they also, on top of that, took Florida down to the wire. They lost to Florida by 2 points in that NCAA tournament. And so I just sit there and say, if that's a down year for UConn, can you imagine what it's going to be like in 2025, 2026? Okay, as far as the roster, remember, what was the big problem last year? They didn't have that really like elite playmaker at point guard. Well, they went out and got Silas Demery Jr. Remember, Silas Demery Jr. is the player who was at Georgia last year. You know, BYU wanted him. St. John's wanted him. Kentucky had an in-home visit with him. UConn's the one who lands him, and he is the guy that brings all of the other pieces together, okay? Braylon Mullins, three-point shooter. He's out with an injury right now, but he should be back soon. You go on down the list. Alex Caravan is back. Solo Ball is back. I think with Braylon Mullins' injury, Jalen Stewart should be able to take a step up. He's kind of a junior. He's been in the program for 2 years, had a great Big East tournament 2 seasons ago. I think a lot of people thought he would make a leap in 2024, 2025. I think 25-26 will be the season. I would also add the advanced metrics say UConn's going to be one of the best three-point shooting teams in college basketball. And to take it even one step further, I think the thing that really stands out to me about UConn, the pieces fit. And I think you can tell by Dan Hurley's demeanor that Dan Hurley likes this team. Okay, so I was texting with somebody who's pretty close with Dan Hurley on Sunday as I was kind of sitting here. By the way, I was watching Sunday Night Football out here at Stadium Swim last night, and we were talking, and I think you can tell by Dan Hurley's demeanor that he really likes this group and that he knows that he has a national championship caliber type team, okay? The bottom line is, look, when I look at this UConn team and I look at last year, yes, there were times that Dan Hurley was out of control. That's inexcusable. You can't behave the way he behaved. And I think it was a combination of a lot of things as to why he did behave the way he behaved. I think part of it was that I think, one, he felt like, I think he knew that he didn't have a team that was good enough. I think part of it was him trying to will them to maybe something that they weren't capable of as a team. And then to take it a step further, I think part of it was just frustration. It was whatever. If you've watched these two exhibitions, listen, again, we don't take too much out of exhibitions, but we don't take nothing out of them either. They destroyed Boston College. Okay, Boston College stinks, but Boston College, remember, last year, UConn lost to Seton Hall. They lost to Villanova twice, okay? Those were the type of teams that they were losing to. UConn destroyed Boston College in an exhibition. It was without Silas Demery. It was without Torres Reed. They come back. They beat Michigan State in an exhibition without Torres Reed and Braylon Mullins. Torres Reed is their biggest low post physical player. And when you play Michigan State, you got to be tough and physical in the low post. So I like this team. I think they're going to be really good. The great thing is, like so many of these teams, they are going to be tested early. Within the next couple weeks, they play Arizona at home. They play Texas at home. They play Florida in New York City. They play Illinois in New York City, at Kansas, and then also BYU. So ironically, I'm doing some advanced scouting for UConn tonight. I didn't even realize it. All 4 of the teams that are playing here in Vegas tonight will play against UConn at some point this season. Florida, Arizona, and BYU in the non-con. Villanova, obviously, twice in the Big East. So UConn is the first team in my official preseason Final Four. Let's get to my number 2 team in the preseason Final Four. And let's see if producer Matt was able to put together a frame for them. Let me see here. I don't want to spoil it. Producer Matt didn't put one out there, and that's okay. It's because my number 2 team in my way too early, not my way too early. This is my officially preseason, my Final Four. The number 2 team is, how about this? It is the Duke Blue Devils. Okay, so here's the bottom line with Duke, is that I think last year with Duke, I was late to the party. In the preseason, I looked at Duke and I said, a lot of great freshmen, but a bunch of new transfers coming in. They didn't return a lot last year. And I think when I go back and look at Duke last year, I was just late to the party. How good are they going to be? I don't care how good Cooper Flagg is. Well, look, Cooper Flagg was incredible, deserving National Player of the Year. But the counter to Cooper Flagg is that they had all the right pieces around him, Malawach, Concanipple, etc. But being a freshman didn't matter. And I think, I hammer this home. I think to me that is the most overstated thing in college basketball right now that I just don't believe to be true. Everybody says you can't win with freshmen in college basketball. You can win with freshmen in college basketball if they're good enough, and I think Duke has those guys again. Cam Boozer, listen, if you did not watch the Duke-Tennessee exhibition, I know we can't take anything out of exhibitions. Well, Duke went to Thompson Bowling Arena. John Shire, they talked about on the broadcast, was very specific. He wanted to play in a road game against a tough physical team, and Cam Boozer bullied a bunch of 22, 23-year-old dudes for Tennessee, excuse me. Jalen Carey in that game. Felix Akpara. Tennessee has a pair of big physical low post players, and Cam Boozer bullied them, 24 points, 23 rebounds. The other thing with Duke, remember last year they only returned 2 players, Caleb Foster and Tyrese Proctor. This year they return a bunch of guys that played various roles on that Final Four team, and now all those guys are a year older. Caleb Foster, Darren Harris, obviously Pat Gongba, the center. Like, I just really like these pieces. And the one thing I'm not going to do is be late to the party on Duke this year because, again, I think Cam Boozer probably has to be the front runner for ACC Player of the Year. Love my guys at NC State. Love Will Wade, but let's call a spade a spade. Darion Williams, as good as he is, I don't know if he's going to put up better stats than Cam Boozer. So Duke, to me, is the number 2 team in my preseason Final Four. I really like them a lot. And again, when Cam Boozer goes up against the Tennessee front court and has 24 and 23, I'm sorry, that's a dude that can do it against pretty much anybody. Let's get to number 3. And for people who are just joining us, yes, I am live here. I'm live here in Las Vegas, Stadium Swim, Circa Casino. This is the best place to watch games when you're in Vegas, when you're doing whatever, when you're in town. I was out here last night for Sunday Night Football. It was unbelievable. Thank you to Circa for the hospitality. All right, let's keep it going. The number 3 team in my 2 early Final Four, I do have UConn. I do have Duke. It is the Kentucky Wildcats. Now, listen, I know what everyone's going to say. Torres, did you see the exhibition against Georgetown? Yeah, I saw the exhibition against Georgetown. It wasn't pretty, and I'm not going to claim it was pretty, okay? But listen, what did I say? People say you can't overreact to exhibitions, you can't underreact, but context matters, right? And so UConn beating Michigan State without their best big man, that context matters. Duke, their freshman big man dominating Tennessee's front court, that matters. And then to take it a step further with Kentucky, I'm not going to hold it against them that their starting point guard and their backup point guard were not playing in that game. Listen, you don't have to be a college hoops insider. We've all watched basketball. If you don't have a point guard, it's hard to do anything, especially against one of the most physical teams in the sport of college basketball in Georgetown. Listen, I know a lot of people don't know a lot about Georgetown, but I mentioned this. I did a little late reaction to that Georgetown game. Ed Cooley's teams are always going to be tough and they're going to be physical. I said it the other night. I had a buddy who used to coach in the Big East. He said the team that I hated playing the most, this was when Ed Cooley was at Providence, but he said it was Providence. He said because they're just going to run what they run, do what they do. They're not going to adjust to you. They're going to make you adjust to them. And so to Kentucky to play them, and I'm not saying they're the best team ever. I think they're a tournament team. I think they'll be in that 7, 8, 9, 10 range. But to play them without a starting point guard and a backup point guard and your starting center, it was just going to be a recipe for disaster. And so I'm not going to hold it against Kentucky that they lost to a team without your starting point guard and your backup point guard. And I do think the other thing too, listen, we all know coming into this season, as far as Kentucky was concerned, I do think the depth is key. I don't care about the $22 million roster, but the key piece was and is always going to be Jalen Lowe. Jalen Lowe is the transfer point guard from Pitt. He's lightning quick, and he makes everything easier for everybody else. And if you watch that Kentucky-Georgetown game, nothing came easy. They had Colin Chandler, who was literally on a Mormon mission 18 months ago, not even playing basketball, running point guard. That was a bad combination. And so I think once you get Jalen Lowe back, and it's not like a season-long injury, he hurt his shoulder, whatever. Once you get him back, I think you're going to be fine. I think the offense is going to look better. And that backcourt of Otega Owe, Denzel Aberdeen, and Jalen Lowe is going to be filthy. I like this team. I think the defense is going to be much better. The one thing I will say, these two exhibitions games taught me for Kentucky, I think there's a few things. One, I do think the three-point shooting, I don't think you can understate it. Now, I don't think it's as important if you play great defense and you crash the boards with Mo Diabate, with Jaden Quaintance when he comes back, whatever. But I think the three-point shooting will be better when you have a real point guard. But I do think it's something that is at least worth acknowledging. The other thing that I think we at least have to say as well, I do think Jaden Quaintance coming back in a timely manner is more important than maybe I anticipated 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks ago as I started looking at this season really in depth. Listen, I like Brandon Garrison, transfer a year ago. It doesn't really look like he's gotten better. And so it looks to me, and if some Kentucky person sees this and says they disagree, that's fine. But he looks like a 10 to 12-minute player off the bench. And if he's a 10 to 12-minute player off the bench, that's not a starting center. He doesn't look right now like a guy that you can count on for 28 minutes a night in the SEC. And I think that's that's a problem. And it's going to be a problem. Now, the good thing is, he should be back by SEC play, this being Jaden Quaintance. The bad news is, obviously, the out-of-conference schedule is pretty tough. First couple weeks here, you got Louisville next week. You got Michigan State a week after that. You got St. John's. You got Indiana. So there's a lot going on, a lot worth noting. But I do like Kentucky. I do think getting Jaden Quaintance back is probably more important than I thought it would be. Kentucky is my third team in a Final Four. We'll get to some of your questions and comments. Drop your thoughts in a minute. I do want to get to the fourth team in my 2025-2026 Final Four. I have so far UConn, Duke, Kentucky. Who is the fourth one? People are going to think I'm just farming for clicks, but I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe this. It's the Arkansas Razorbacks. Listen, a couple things. One, I think even going back to last year with Calipari, let me even backtrack. This Arkansas team is good. And, you can debate Calipari in March, I don't really care. What I care about is this. That Arkansas team dominated 2 exhibition games. And I'm not saying that Cincinnati and Memphis, those are the teams that you'll be playing in the Final Four. I think Cincinnati's a middle-of-the-pack Big 12 team, not top 5, but not bottom 5 either. And I think they're going to be in the mix for a tournament. I think Memphis is the favorite in the AAC or the American, or remember John Summerall last week. We can't call it the AAC anymore. They call it the American. Memphis is good. They got dudes. And Arkansas just destroyed them. And I think what I didn't even really realize until watching Arkansas, they had a lot of really good players last year. I don't know that they really had a ton of difference makers until Carter Knox really came on late in the season, okay? Darius Acuff changes everything for them. Malik Thomas changes everything for them because when the offense stalls, you just give it to them and they can get to the rim and they're either going to get fouled, they're going to get a good look, or they're going to get a shot up on the rim. And then you have Trevin Brazil and all those big athletic dudes, Malik Ewan and all them attacking the glass. And so to me, this is how John Calipari has always wanted to play, dating back to Memphis. I listen, I'm not young enough, I'm not old enough to remember the UMass teams, very well. But those Memphis teams for John Calipari, this is how he wanted to play. Super athletic guard, big and physical down low, control the glass, defend your butt off. That is exactly who he has. And so to go on the road against Memphis, and I know there were a lot of Arkansas fans there, to go on the road and be in a situation where you are in a situation where you run away and score 95 points and you didn't even play that well early, that is an incredible testament to this team. I think the freshmen do change everything. I'm not ready to say, we had a listener in the chat a few weeks ago that was like, oh, Arkansas's role players last year, or Arkansas's stars last year are now role players. In other words, Carter Knox and those guys, DJ Wagner. I'm not ready to say that yet, but what I am ready to say is Arkansas put up 95 against Memphis the other night. I don't even think Carter Knox played that well. And so I think this is a really good team, man. This is a really good team. I like all the pieces. And by the way, I know people, Torres, you always No. Go back and look. I don't think I have ever picked Arkansas to go to a Final Four in all my years doing this. Some of those Musselman teams I liked, but I didn't pick them. I didn't pick them last year. I did think they were going to be better the first part of the season, but it all got figured out. But I do have Arkansas going to the Final Four. So, yeah, I have as a Final Four, and we're going to come back, make some national title picks, all that. I do have as a Final Four. You can see it on the screen right here. I have UConn, Duke, Arkansas, and Kentucky. All right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to come back. When we do, I want to make my national championship picks. I'm also going to give you my national player of the year. We'll get to some of your questions. We'll preview the games tonight. Maybe talk about some other teams that have me intrigued. Torres in Vegas, Circa Sportsbook, Stadium Swim right behind me. Quick break. Be right back. All right, we're going to get back to the show in a minute. But before we do, you know what we got to do. We got to thank our friends. We got to thank our partners. We got to go ahead and thank Cauley Puffs and CauleyPuffs.com. Yeah, you see the logo on the back of the screen right here. Okay, so I've told you all about Cauley Puffs, but family-owned company, not far from where I live. Joey, a huge sports fan. And one day he was sitting on the couch and he said, you know what? I need a snack that is both healthy but delicious, something my kids are going to love, something my family's going to love, something I'm going to love. And so he came up with Cauley Puffs. This is the new age health food snack. You don't need to go to the grocery aisle and buy all that crap, the Doritos, the Fritos. No, my friends, you need Cauley Puffs. Baked, not fried, avocado oil, no grease, healthy ingredients. But here's the best part. They taste freaking delicious. Actually, there's another best part. In addition to tasting delicious, in addition to being healthy, they are also taking care of listeners of the Aaron Torres pod. Okay, so check this out. All you got to do is go to CauleyPuffs.com. That's CauleyPuffs.com, CauleyPuffs.com, and you can get 15% off any purchase with the promo code Torres. That's Torres, Torres. It's that simple. 15% off any purchase. One bag to try them out, 100 bags to cater a party. Doesn't really matter. Promo code Torres. CauleyPuffs.com gets you 15% off. Cauley Puffs also available on Amazon. You obviously can't get the promo code there, but CauleyPuffs.com, CauleyPuffs.com, promo code Torres gets you 15% off any purchase. Thank you to our friends at Cauley Puffs. All right, everybody. I'm back. Good to be back. So going to get to some national championship picks, my national player of the year in half a second. We'll get to some of your comments. Drop your college hoops thoughts in the chat here. Just got to do one quick thing here. Hold on 1/2 second. Give me one sec. Oh, boy. We got ourselves a situation here. Hold on one second. Oh, it's all right. It's all good. Hold on one second. We'll get to some of your questions here in half a second. Try this for real. All right, everybody. All right, back. Good to be back. So want to go ahead and get to my official national championship pick and also national player of the year. We'll get to some of your questions, some other teams that I like and that I don't like. Before we get to it, though, a couple quick things. First of all, you know what I got to do? I got to thank our friends, our ticketing partners. I got to thank SeatGeek and the SeatGeek app. Okay, so it's that time of year. College hoops is here. Maybe you're an Arizona fan watching right now. You're going to the game tonight. Maybe you're a BYU, Villanova, or Florida fan going to the game tonight, and you need tickets. Maybe your favorite team's playing tonight. Maybe your favorite team's playing tomorrow. Maybe your favorite team's playing pretty much a lot between now and March. Well, the only place to get tickets is SeatGeek, and here's what I love about SeatGeek. They are America's #1 ticketing app, over 28 million downloads. They tell you every ticket, if it's good, if it's not good. Red dot means probably not for you. Green dot means go ahead and purchase. And also, they rate every ticket on a scale of 1 to 10. You know what I love even more about SeatGeek, though? They take care of listeners of the Aaron Torres pod. That's all you got to do. Download the SeatGeek app. If you use promo code Torres, that's promo code TORRES, it gets you $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres gets you $20 off your first purchase. All right, let's keep it going. I'm going to give you my national championship pick in half a second. But before we get to that, I do want to give my national player of the year pick. I haven't seen if Circa right now, I do not believe has national title picks on the board, but or player of the year picks on the board. I'm going to go maybe a little bit off the radar, but maybe not, depending on how you feel about this player. I'm going to go Michigan's Yaxel Lendenberg. Okay, so Yaxel Lendenberg, for people who don't remember, was the #1 player in the transfer portal last year, okay? He is a guy that was the only player in college basketball last year outside of Cooper Flagg to lead his team in every major statistical category: scoring, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. 18 points per game, 11 boards, 4.5 assists, also nearly 2 blocks and 2 steals per game, okay? And so I only bring it up because he stepped up in weight class going to Michigan. But if you watched him last season, first of all, he's the real deal. He could have stayed in the NBA draft and gone pro, and I think he would have been a first-round pick, okay? But he decides to come back to college. I was kind of told, like, let me put it this way. I think he always wanted to come back to college, get better. For people who don't know his story, he really didn't start playing college basketball until later in his life, really at about, the age of 16, 17, 18, went to JUCO, whatever. So I think he wanted to come back to college. I think he wanted to play at the highest level, but if he had stayed in the draft, he would have been a first-round pick, okay? So he has that kind of talent. He's stepping up to Michigan. And here's the other thing about him. You can sit there and say, well, let's see how he does against good teams. Okay, well, how about when they played St. John's in an exhibition game a few weeks ago, okay? And I understand it's an exhibition and we can't overreact and all that good stuff, okay? Yaxel Lendenberg, 10 of 15 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3. So for some reason, I can't find the actual point total that he had. But let me see here if I can find it really quick, because this is, I'm trying to find this really quick. All right, so Yaxel Lendenberg against St. John's. Let me put it this way. He had like 30 points and 10 boards with 2 threes. He was the best. He was 25 and 10, okay, with 4 assists. Best player on the floor by a mile, okay? And that's, again, by the way, say what you want about Rick Pitino. The one thing his team can do is defend. And Yaxel just tore them apart. Now, listen, I think Michigan's going to be really good. Michigan was in the small group of teams that was right outside my Final Four bubble going into the year. My worry about them, I like Elliot Cadeau, the point guard. The biggest issue that I do have with Elliot Cadeau and Michigan in general is Elliot Cadeau is just really small. And we saw when he was at UNC last year, for people who don't remember, when he was at UNC and they went up against those teams like Duke that were really big, really physical, really athletic, it was tough for him to really do much of anything against those really good teams. And so you think about the teams that he's going to have to play against in the NCAA tournament to make a Final Four, the BYUs, the UConns, the whatever, the Kentuckys. I mean, he might be guarded by Denzel Aberdeen at 6'6". He might be guarded at BYU. Maybe it's not by Rob Wright. Maybe it's by Richie Saunders, who's 6'5", 6'6". So I just bring it up because that's my only concern. Are the guards good enough? But Yaxel Lenenberg will be my official preseason National Player of the Year. Listen, Braden Smith is going to get a lot of buzz. He deserves it. I think the only thing with Braden Smith that I would worry about, they have the other point guard, Omer Mayer, who's awesome. But the question becomes, if Omer Mayer is really good, does that cut into Braden Smith's minutes? And I would also say with him as well, listen, just, he's going to be a great point guard on a great team, and he's going to have a lot of assists. I just don't know, like if Yaxel averages 21 and 11, is 14 points and 9 assists a game going to move the needle in the National Player of the Year race? I don't know. Braden Smith is really good. I'm not trying to take away from him. I'll tell you this, another guy that I actually like for National Player of the Year is Donovan Dent at UCLA. Now, I think the big thing about UCLA is Mick Cronin going to let him loose, or is Mick Cronin going to do the Mick Cronin thing and put handcuffs on him and basically not let him be him? Because Donovan Dent is another one. I don't think people realize, because he played in the Mountain West last year, just how good he is. He put up amazing stats. And I would say this, he could have put up those stats for any team in any conference in college basketball. And the thing with him, coming off a year where he averaged 20 points, 6.5 assists, and 5 rebounds per game, is that 4 rebounds per game, is that with Donovan Dent, the only thing listen, he could have done that anywhere. If he was 6'4", if he was 6'5", instead of 6'1", 6'2", he'd be in the NBA right now. So I think he's another one for National Player of the Year. I think there's other candidates. I think Darren Peterson at Kansas was awesome in that. Darren Peterson might be national. I think Cam Boozer at Duke might be National Player of the Year. Debansa, I don't know if he'll do quite enough. And BYU has so many guys on that team that, I just don't know if I can pick AJ Debansa. I'm trying to think. I didn't really put together a first team now that I'm thinking about it in my head. If I was going to go 5 guys, not worrying really as much about position, I would take the 3 guards I mentioned, Donovan Dent, Darren Peterson, and Braden Smith. And I would also take, on top of that, probably Yaxel Lenenberg and Cam Boozer. Obviously, JT Toppin, the forward from Texas Tech, the reigning Big 12 Player of the Year, would have to be in that mix as well. A lot of good players in college basketball. It's funny, people just ask me, like, what are you most excited about this season? And I got to be real. I think it's just the number of good players that are in this sport because of NIL. You have a historic freshman class with, the Caleb Wilsons, Darius Acuffs, Braylon Mullinses, on top of AJ Debansa, Mikael Brown Jr., Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer. Man, oh man, you put on those freshmen with a bunch of guys that came back to college, the Yaxel Lenenbergs, the Todd Pettifords, Donovan Dent. These are all guys that in a different era might have just tried to get drafted, gone overseas, whatever. Now they're all in college basketball. Give me 1 sec. We'll get to my national championship pick. We'll get to some of your questions, comments. We'll talk about the games tonight. All right. For people just joining us, yes, we are at Stadium Swim, Circa Casino, Circa Sportsbook. Unbelievable setup. Just an unbelievable setup. We are so grateful to our friends at Circa. By the way, I posted it on the Aaron Torres Pod Twitter page. We do have the updated national championship odds available via Circa. I'm looking at them right now. Purdue and Houston are the favorites at plus 950. Kentucky looks like they're down to 10-1. Let's see here. Is that right? I'm trying to figure this out off the top of my head. Anyway, I posted them at the Aaron Torres pod page, Aaron Torres Pod on Instagram. You could check them out there. But Purdue and Houston are the co-favorites at let me see here, plus 750, and then you have, just trying to just do some quick math here on my own. Yeah, so there you go. All right, let's keep it going. Let's keep it going, and let's keep the conversation going. I do have to make my national championship picks. Before we do, let's see if there's anything interesting in the chat. All right. Bruce Pearl on the TNT studio crew. Looking forward to hearing him on the Florida-Arizona broadcast. Bruce Pearl's great, man. And Bruce Pearl is built for the media. I know there's a lot of questions and comments about why he left, how he left. I don't really understand the pushback on how Bruce Pearl left Auburn. I think everybody kind of thought that his replacement was going to be Stephen Pearl. Stephen Pearl no more or less qualified than John Shire was when John Shire got the job at Duke. I'm not saying he's going to be John Shire, but John Shire's worked out pretty well. Let's see here. Let's get to some of your other questions, comments. Drop your college hoops thoughts in the chat. Bud Wyatt says, Arkansas, highly rated, highly underrated, and a dark horse for the Final Four. The freshman duo is outstanding. Listen, I'm going to tell you, man, like I'm going to tell you, they are underrated. 14th in the country to me is, if there are 13 teams better than them, then this is the best season in college basketball history. Like, you look at how deep they are. People say, oh, but how many? They have 5 or 6 NBA players. Maybe not, I don't know. Carter Knox is an NBA player. The 2 freshmen are NBA players. That's 3. We'll see where, I think Trevin Brazile can play a role. I think Billy Richmond could potentially play a role down the road. And then I just think it's the other guys like DJ Wagner, whatever you think about him, 30-year college basketball player, 30-year SEC point guard. He was one of the best guards in the SEC by the end of last year. Trevin Brazile was awesome down the stretch. Remember, had a double-double against Hunter Dickinson and Kansas in the NCAA tournament. So I'm with you. I think Arkansas is one of the more underrated teams in college basketball. And I just think, I think the other thing too is that we can go back in hindsight with last year and be like, wow, listen, it was his own decision. It was John Calipari's decision to only bring in essentially 9 players last year. But you could just watch this team and see how much deeper they are, how much talented they are, how much more physical they are, and how many more things they can do because they have more than 9 players. I really like Arkansas a lot. Kentucky Farmer says, if Duke couldn't do it last year with Flag, they aren't doing it this year. I would disagree with that a little bit. Cooper Flag was amazing. And I think they were, I think they were probably a better team on paper last year. But what I would also say is that, first of all, Cam Boozer, I want to reemphasize this, had 24 points and 23 rebounds against Tennessee the other night. And it was an exhibition game, but Tennessee played their front court guys like it was a regular season game. Jalen Carey is a 1-year-old senior whose dad was an offensive lineman for 10 years in the NFL, okay? Big and physical, to say the least. Who's the other guy? Felix Akpara, big and physical. Cam Boozer dominated them. And so if you're just going to have a guy that can get you 20 and 12 on any night, that's a great place to start. And then the guys around him. Caleb Foster, I don't know if he's an NBA player, but 30-year point guard. Isaiah Evans can fill it up from the back end. Dame Sarr didn't even play that well against Tennessee. I think he's, to me, one of those guys that's going to get better as the season goes on. And so it's hard for me to just not be excited about that Duke team. And I think, listen, again, I made the mistake last year. They're too young. They're too this. They're too that. Well, the freshman class maybe isn't quite as good as last year, but it's darn good. And I think the older players are better. They bring back way more this year than they did last year in terms of older players. Couple more. And then I want to get to some other teams. Andrew doesn't think Kentucky's making the Final Four. We don't have any NBA players besides Jaden Quaintance. I mean, I was going to say, first of all, I don't believe that you don't have any NBA players besides Jaden Quaintance. I don't think you have any NBA players that will be first-round picks in 2026 besides Jaden Quaintance. I think Malachi Moreno is an NBA player. I think Yelovich is an NBA player. I think Otega Owe is an NBA player. Aberdeen will, Aberdeen is kind of the equivalent of what most of those Florida guys were last year, right? I know he was on the Florida team, but you had Walter Clayton, who was a star. Okay. But Elijah Martin and Will Richard were like late second round picks who are going to play in the NBA because as role players. Denzel Aberdeen could be that. So I don't buy that because you don't have a ton of frontline NBA talent, Kentucky won't be good. Purdue doesn't have a ton of frontline NBA talent. People are picking them to win the national championship. Houston's best NBA talent is in the freshman class. By the way, let's switch gears. I want to talk about a few of some other teams that I like and I don't like. By the way, people are commenting. People are arguing if I'm a Kentucky fan. I'm not a Kentucky fan. I talk about them a lot because they're an awesome program. I think they're a fascinating program. But it's funny. I mean, if I covered the NBA, I would talk about the Lakers more than the Grizzlies. Maybe not the Grizzlies because John Morant's a mess. But I would talk about the Lakers more than the now Denver's good, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to think who sucks in the NBA. I talk about the Lakers. If I covered the NBA, I talk about the Lakers more than I would the Atlanta Hawks. Okay. And it's the same. I talk about Kentucky all the time. They're interesting. They generally have really good players and people care. That's what we talk about. 25 million people watch Game 7 of the World Series. If it wasn't the Dodgers, people rooting for the Dodgers or against the Dodgers, I don't know. If it was the Diamondbacks instead with no players you ever heard of, I don't know. So no, I'm actually not a Kentucky fan, but I do talk about them a lot. Let's see here. I'm trying to sell t-shirts. No, it has not. Listen, did you watch Arkansas in the exhibition games? He's unbelievable. But yeah, so anyway, let's keep it going. A couple other thoughts on a couple other teams that I want to get into. Teams that I'm higher and lower on than some others. By the way, we got 3 likes on this video so far, or am I just way behind? We got to make sure to like this video. Let's get it moving up the algorithm. Okay, we're up to 16 likes. We got 70 people watching. No reason it shouldn't be at 70 likes. Like this video. Appreciate your support. All right, we'll get to my national championship pick in a second. A couple other teams that I'm intrigued by. I'll tell you this. I promise you, Will Wade and the North Carolina State Wolfpack, that staff, and I haven't talked to Will Wade, but I know enough people around there. They really like their team. Darion Williams is awesome. Preseason ACC Player of the Year, Trey Holloman. I think people don't realize how good Trey Holloman is. So I just lost my frame there. Give me 1/2 second. I don't think people realize how good Trey Holloman is. He was the 6th man on last year's Elite 8 team for the Michigan State Spartans. Terrence Arsenault was a role player. And I'll say this, they got a guy from overseas on that roster that they really, really, really like. He is a player from, I believe, Gambia, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here. Yeah, Musa Sajania. I'm just here to tell you, he's like 6'10". He's one of those like 6'10" dudes that can guard like 5 different positions on the floor. He's not going to be a guy who, averages 20 a game as a freshman, but they really like him. And I think Will Wade brought a bunch of guys from McNeese that started at the high major level that are bought into what he's doing. Listen, I think they could finish as high as 2nd in the ACC. I don't know that they're better than Duke, but I think they're right there. I do like Louisville as well. I know Louisville struggled in that win again, lost to Kansas. Kansas, by the way, to me might be one of the single biggest wild cards. Like if Darren Peterson plays like he did against Louisville, and I know it was the first game, and I know there was not a lot of tape, and I know it's hard to know. If he plays like that, it is hard. Louisville or Kansas can beat anybody left on the schedule. Now, the Big 12 is going to be brutal with Texas Tech and BYU and whatever. But I do think that if Kansas gets that Darren Peterson, that might be a team that everybody, including me, slept on. I think I had him at 18, 19 in my final preseason poll. That's a top 10 team that could go to a Final Four, but I do like Louisville with Mikal Brown Jr. I think those guys playing around him are going to figure it out. Going to be a good 3-point shooting team, a good rebounding team. I don't know that they have a ton inside. We'll see what happens when Kashawn Pryor comes back. He was banged up. Now he's, missed most of last year, so we'll see what happens. Louisville didn't have its most important front court player in that Kansas game. It is worth noting. Couple other teams I like, I don't like. Arizona is another one I really like. They play Florida tonight. Circa has Florida as a slight favorite in that game. I think I like Arizona outright. I said this the other day. there's this notion I keep hearing that Arizona is too young. They're, quote, too young because they're relying, excuse me, on two freshmen, Braden Burries and Koa Pete. Well, yes, they have two freshmen. That doesn't make them young, though. Their starting point guard is Jaden Bradley, a former McDonald's All-American who's also a fourth-year senior. Their starting center is Krevis, a third-year player who many believe is an NBA player. Who's the other one? Anthony Del Orso is another guy, fourth-year college basketball player. It's like, where do we get this idea that Arizona is too young? So I like Arizona. They are playing Florida tonight. That's kind of the marquee game here on the opening night of college hoops. Trying to see here what the point spread is, if I can find it off the top of my head. Does not look like I can find it right now. Oh, I'll find it right here. Hold on. Give me 1/2 second. So BYU is a 10-point favorite in the second game. And in the first game this evening, let's see here. We have, let me see. Trying to find it really quick. Bad radio. Having trouble finding it. It's okay. It's all right. We'll figure it out. But let's see here. Again, BYU, the slight favorite to open the season. 10-point favorite. Okay, here we go. Florida, a 3.5-point favorite on Monday night. I think that Arizona should have success. By the way, the other thing with Florida, I just saw Boogie Flans dealing with some sort of injury. John Rothstein reported that he'll be available tonight. Listen, big year for Boogie Fland. People have strong opinions on him based on how Arkansas played before him and after him. I know for a fact Todd Golden really likes what he's done. I'm a little lower on Florida than most. The front court is really good. I worry a little bit about the back court. I like Boogie Fland, but got to prove he can play winning basketball. Xavier Lee, I think it's a big step up from the Ivy League to the SEC. So that's Florida's a team that I'm a little bit lower on than most. I think St. John's, to me, is a really interesting one. We haven't talked a ton about them. I obviously inherently trust Rick Pitino. I think the big question that I do have with St. John's is just, so many different variables. Is one, first of all, by the end of last year, they were playing like 7-8 guys. So everybody knew their role, their assignment, their this, their that, their whatever, okay? This year, they got a lot of dudes. They had a lot of dudes. I mean, just go down the names. Ian Jackson, Dylan Mitchell, Zuby Ejiofor, Oziah Sellers, Ruben Prey is back from last year. Those are just the guys off the top of my head. I think my biggest concern with St. John's is, one, the point guard situation. Do you have a point guard? Do you not have a point guard? Now, Rick Pitino is doing his preseason Rick Pitino thing. Oh, maybe it's Dylan Mitchell, who's like a 6'8" forward. Maybe it's Dylan Darling. Over the summer, he loved Dylan Darling. When Ian Jackson committed, he called Ian Jackson the next great St. John's point guard. So with Rick Pitino, you never know what you're going to get. He's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. You never know what's hyperbole and what's the truth and what's this and that. But I just bring it up because I do worry about the point guard situation. I worry about how some of those pieces fit. I think they'll be really good. I do think there is a world where, given the preseason expectations, that they could struggle. But again, the other thing too, I hate to say it, the Big East is so bad that even if St. John's isn't that good, I just don't know how much it really matters. St. John's, they do have the tough out-of-conference schedule. Ole Miss at home, Alabama at home, part of the Players era. They'll come back out here in a few weeks where I am in Vegas. But I just bring it up to say that, that is a little bit of a concern that I do have with St. John's. Again, though, the good thing is whatever issues they have in the preseason and in the out-of-conference, they have plenty of time to figure it out in the Big East, because the Big East just is not very good. You get past UConn, St. John's, Creighton. I do think Georgetown is pretty good. I'm not sold on Providence. I'm not totally sold on Marquette. But, I mean, even if we're talking about a 4 to 5 bid league, when you're talking about the Big Ten getting 8-9 bids, the SEC getting 8-9 bids, the Big 12 getting 8-9 bids, I do think it's hard for me to think that it's going to be too much at St. John's. Real quick, let's get to some more of the questions. Darren says that he has Arizona plus 3.5 tonight. That's going to be my bet as well. Slam Tana says Kansas did look good. They played big against Louisville. They looked awesome. And I'm somebody that was critical of Kansas in the offseason. It's funny. I was telling somebody on, I guess it would have been Sunday night. I was on the phone. Kansas fans think I hate them. It's like, I don't hate them. It's just the last 2 years you were the preseason #1 team in the country, and you weren't very good by the end of things. And so, your coach has also been hospitalized twice. I think that's worth noting in the last probably month or so. And so, anyway, I could go on and on. I'm just bringing it up to say that I do think that Kansas is a team that I was lower on than most, but that I do think has a chance to be really good. All right, this is what we're going to do, because I did 2 shows yesterday, and I will be doing a show from the arena this evening. If you can't stay up till 11 p.m., you could always check it out, tomorrow morning, whatever, on live stream. But really quickly, let's just get to my Final Four national championship picks. Darren says Koa Pete is a baller. Koa Pete is a freaking baller. He's got a little bit of that Cam Boozer. He's so big and so strong that I don't know, again, Arizona, they're too young. They're too freshman based. It's like they're going to be starting the same number of freshmen as Duke. They're going to be starting the same number of freshmen as a lot of teams. Like, I just don't know how much I worry about it. But he's a guy that, again, for people who don't know, his dad played in the NFL. His brother plays in the NFL. He's got a bunch of brothers that play college football. Koa Pete for Arizona is a dude that, I think he can average 18 and 10 in the Big 12. So let's go ahead and get to. So I mentioned earlier that I do have a Final Four of. Let's see here. Let's see if I can get this Final Four frame going. All right. So my Final Four, for people who missed it earlier, it is UConn, Duke, Kentucky, and it is also on top of that, it is the Arkansas Razorbacks. Because, Torres, you're playing to all these fan bases. Well, first of all, Duke fans don't really like me. They think I don't like them. 2, look at the rosters. Watch the games. I think all these teams are awesome. If I had to pick 2 or 3 teams that missed that, Michigan, I would say Michigan, Louisville were probably the 2 that I wanted to put in that I couldn't. Michigan, I don't even know how many people care about basketball there, so don't tell me that I'm playing to my fans. By the way, again, a quick reminder, we are at Stadium Swim at Circa Casino. Awesome, awesome, awesome setup. Really quickly, before we get out of here, I guess I got to make a national championship pick. A national championship pick. All right, my national championship pick, I'm just going to say it. I like UConn to win it all. And I will have Duke as the title game runner-up. By the way, that would be a monster number, a monster whatever, okay? So here's my thought process on this Final Four. Is like I said with Kentucky, the three-point shooting does worry me a little bit. And I think, by the way, to a degree, the Final Four worries me, or the three-point shooting does worry me a little bit with Arkansas as well. But listen, I look at these 4 teams. I think they're all really good in their own right. But I think there's about, 7 or 8 teams. I did the thing, what was it, a couple days ago? I said I think there's 11 teams that are good enough to win the national championship. And I don't think it's quite like college football, where like college football right now, it feels like team like 8 to team like 35 can just beat each other. Like Vandy's ranked 10th in the country, get destroyed by Texas. Texas loses to Florida. Florida loses to this team, So I don't think we're quite there with college basketball, but I do think there's a world where there's about 7, 8, 10 teams that I think could win it all, okay? But I am going to pick UConn, and why I'm going to pick UConn is just transparently. It has nothing to do with where I went to school, where I grew up, whatever. But let's just start talking this out. National championship pedigree. You got a bunch of guys on that team. Alex Caravan, solo ball. Jalen Stewart. Well, Alex Caravan's been part of 2 national championships. Solo ball, Jalen Stewart, part of a national championship team. What do we learn year over year in college basketball? It is the teams that bring back a lot of talent that have a great deal of success. It's also worth noting, UConn has NBA talent as well. Braylon Mullen's going to be a first-round pick. I think Solo Ball is going to play in the league. Alex Caravan, I think, is going to have a late second round. He'll get drafted at some point because he's 6'10" and does all the little things. I know the offense has struggled, but whatever. Jalen Stewart could one day be an NBA player. So they have NBA dudes. They have that NBA talent, and they have the coaching pedigree. Listen, I know you don't like Dan Hurley. That's okay. It's fine. I understand why people were frustrated with his behavior last year. But that dude, again, in a down year, took the eventual national champion Florida Gators right down to the wire. So if he almost beat Florida, if he played Florida tougher than pretty much anybody in college basketball last year in the tournament, and that was supposed to be a down year, I know my guy can still coach. So I think he's got the reinforcements. I think he's got the point guard that he needs. And I do like UConn to be your 2026 national champion. That would obviously be the third national championship in 4 years for the Huskies. All right, I think I'm going to get out of here because I got another full show to do tonight. Let's get to any last questions, any last comments before we get out of here. Drop any questions or comments in the chat. Let's see here. All right. Any last questions or comments? So Darren says UK versus Duke for one of the best championships in years. Darren likes Kentucky and Duke in the championship. Kentucky Farmers has Kentucky winning it. Slam Tana says, yep, those are some top-tier basketball programs right there. Let's see here. Who is this? Went from 4-24 to 28-6-1 season, so I believe anything can happen. Is that a Louisville comment, Slam Tana? Am I incorrect? I'm not trying to be funny. Who went 4-24? I guess it was Louisville. Listen, I like Louisville. I know that Pat Kelsey right now is, maybe persona non grata in the Kentucky community, and a lot of Kentucky fans like to have a lot of comments about maybe his stature and all that. I think that guy's a darn good college basketball coach. I actually like Louisville. And Mikael Brown Jr., he struggled in that game. He's not going to go 0 for 10 from 3 like he did in that game again anytime soon. So I actually like Mikael Brown Jr. quite a bit. I think Louisville has a chance to be very good. I assume that's what the reference is, though, 4-24 to 28-6 in one season. All right. I'll tell you what. My National Player of the Year, Steve, for those of you just joining us, you could go back and listen. It is Yaxel Lendenberg of the Michigan Wolverines. Remember, averaged basically 18 points, 11 rebounds, 4.5 assists last year. And against St. John's in an exhibition, 25 points, 2 3-pointers made, 10 boards. So 25 and 10 in an exhibition against St. John's. So Yaxel Lendenberg is my National Player of the Year. And I want everybody to go back and look, but go back and watch. But my final 4 is UConn, Duke, Arkansas, and Kentucky. And I do have UConn winning it all. All right, last questions, last comments. We're going to get out of here. Dude is a goober. I don't know if that's me. I think that's a Pat Kelsey reference. Like I said, I understand that a lot of Kentucky fans don't like Pat Kelsey. I don't think you're talking about me, Kentucky Farmer. You're generally a very nice guy. You always say nice things about me. So we're going to assume that's Pat Kelsey and not Torres. All right, I'll tell you what. I am going to go ahead and get out of here. First of all, I do want to thank Stadium Swim for hosting us today. I guess in theory, I could come back and do the show from Stadium Swim tomorrow, but the plan is to just do the show from the arena tonight. I guess if the games end at midnight Eastern, maybe we just wait until the morning, because I do love the setup here. I'm not going to lie. And I do have a late flight tomorrow. I guess I would have to check out. It'd get a little complicated. But anyway, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure to do so. By the way, I don't think I've shared this yet. October, our most viewed month in the history of our YouTube channel. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And just make sure, subscribe, rate, review, whatever. We're going to get back to college football. The first college football playoff rankings come out on Tuesday night. So, yeah, we going to have a lot to talk about. But I'm going to get out of here. Thank you all for your support. And I'll be back either later tonight, maybe first thing tomorrow. Shout out to Torrent Craig. Shout out to Rachel, who hates my voice. JJ Reddick, you F-head, unblock me. I'll be back tonight from T-Mobile Arena. Aaron Torres.